The Coalition.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump right into what I think is arguably the biggest news of the week. I think that the God of War release date was a major news story, but this story here, very, very interesting. I think it overshadowed a lot of stuff, and it was announced earlier this week that Microsoft's Game Pass service is now going to include Microsoft Studio exclusives. So in the actual statement that was put on Major Nelson's blog, they mentioned Sea of Thieves, State of Decay 2, Crackdown 3, as well as future entries in the Forza series, the Gears of War series, and the Halo series will all be included day one in Xbox's Xbox Game Pass feature. And of course, this service can be used on either Windows 10 computers or Xbox One consoles. So I wanted to get you guys' initial thoughts on this particular decision made by Microsoft and whether or not this has a chance to impact Microsoft as a whole moving forward. Will the games continue to sell past this, or is this a sign that they might be moving away from the console and focusing more on a service model? So Max, I know that you said that you play Sea of Thieves. You said that you love the experience, so much that you're going to be picking up Sea of Thieves day one. So what did you think of this news by Microsoft?
Well, I think it's a pretty cool idea. It's definitely interesting. It's a step forward for digital distribution, of course. And, Microsoft is always toying with things and doing kind of weird stuff like this. So it makes sense that they were the company to have done this. It's definitely good value. I've seen some statistics. Apparently, the average Xbox gamer only buys 2 to 3 $60 games a year. So this is, I guess, Microsoft's way of still trying to get like everyone's money, because there's going to be a lot of people that won't buy all these releases and stuff like that. So that's cool. But I guess this is kind of the cynical side of me, I guess, but I do feel like this is part of a bigger picture. And I feel like this is sort of a step towards Microsoft trying to go almost like fully digital in a way, or just to start like the streaming service of games. Even though I understand with Game Pass you can download games, which is that's amazing, thank God, and that needs to stay that way for a very long time because of people's internet services and stuff. But the thing is, if everyone starts buying into this, because it's $10 a month, like even if I wanted to try out Sea of Thieves, hell, what if we like didn't get it for review or something? I could still pay $10 a month, play it, or pay $10 for 1 month, play it for like 3 weeks, and then cancel the subscription. Like that's crazy. That's a really good deal. Either that or they're going to hike the price up eventually once they sort of get people in, like Netflix has been doing. But I do think this is their kind of foray in trying to get people like kind of trapped in their ecosystem, trying to like get the game just streaming sort of rental service going digitally. I don't know. It's really interesting. I feel like the end goal isn't good for the consumer, though. I feel like the end goal is a lot more Microsoft centric than it is consumer centric, even though this sounds like a great deal for now. Kind of like Movie Pass, I guess. Movie Pass is like really cheap. You can see a bunch of movies. I feel like there's some sort of sinister thing behind that. Or like with Facebook, how they introduce a new feature, get everyone used to it, and then they start throwing ads in it, and like people aren't going to stop using it because they've been using it for the past year or two. So I feel like it's going to be something like that. So we'll have to see. But at like face value, it's a really cool idea. Like this is huge, good for them. This could be something that would convince people to go Xbox over PS4, I'd say. Like definitely. But yeah, it's good for them. It's cool. I personally can't invest in it because I don't have the time to play all those games. Like I already don't have enough time to play the games I have now, but that would be something I would love to have if I had the time for it. So yeah, I could see why people would like it.
All right, so I agree with pretty much everything you said. I'm gonna say a few things and then I'll move over to whoever wants to say anything on the subject. I think the fact that Microsoft decided to have this service and to have the whole subscription thing, it's great, but I also think it's a clear and direct sign that a lot of the people, when we kept talking in the past about people aren't buying the games, the people who you see that Microsoft announces a new exclusive, and then it doesn't sell well or people aren't buying it. Well, I think that hints to that, because now when you tell someone that you can only pay $10 to access this game versus $60, or I think a lot of people will be more willing to try it out for $10 than $60. So I think it's a smart move by Microsoft. For right now, just the Microsoft Studios games, which definitely has to be said multiple times, because I think a lot of people think, well, it's every game. Well, no, it's not every game. That is, however, a conversation that I'm pretty sure that they may try to have with some developers. I know that they said they're buying up a whole bunch of studios, may make offers, and there may be some deals where they will try to get some people to have stuff on that particular platform earlier, which, you know, I think that's going to be something that they do discuss in the future. They are talking about it now, but obviously I think it's a good move by Microsoft. It is a risky move, I would say, but ultimately it's not, because you want to make sure your games are selling. When they made the decision to have their games also come to PC, that was a very, very good decision, because I'm pretty sure in the past, when they just had a game out on Xbox One, maybe a lot of people didn't buy it. So introducing PC into that whole conversation changes everything. So I think a lot of people are going to definitely buy a lot of these games. It definitely will increase some sales over time, depending on what title it actually is. I think a game like Halo or Gears, that game will sell itself. So I expect those definitely to still continue to be the big sellers. But then the little smaller stuff like Sea of Thieves, yeah, a lot of people, they may be more willing to try it by only paying $10. So I have to give them props on this. I know I've criticized Microsoft a lot in the past, but I have absolutely nothing bad to say about this decision. I think it was a wise decision, and very curious to see how it pays off. So wanted to get someone else's opinion. Dana, how about you let me know what you think about this decision by Microsoft?
I actually think it's okay before it goes really bad. I feel that this gives the spotlight to smaller games, or games we really haven't really heard that much about, or games that could be good that we originally thought was crappy. I like the idea. I think it's a good way to, you know, find out what's out there on Microsoft and see whether or not you like it. And yeah, I'm for it right now.
Yeah, well, yeah. Until as Max said, until they reveal, oh, well, wait, we do have another agenda, but they're not going to reveal what that is right now.
No, they're not. But I think that it, like I said, it gives, you know, more eyes on a game. And right now, that's what people need. With anything, they need a larger audience. And when you're browsing through something and you see that you already have this, it's already paid for technically, and you like, oh, what's this game over here? What's that? Let me try it. And you end up discovering something new. It's like the Netflix of gaming.
Exactly. So that's what Phil Spencer's goal was. So yeah, he's pretty much right on pace with that. Yeah. So Mr. Lugo, do you have any thoughts on this particular topic?
Yeah, I've heard a couple of people talk about Game Pass a few times, and a lot of them seem to be in kind of agreement that this also takes a big jab over at places like GameStop. And the reason being is because this is like, if this works out in Microsoft's favor, especially with new releases, because they said they're going to have exclusives and new releases that are going to appear on Game Pass, which I think is great. But that also allows people to really pick up new later releases, you know, just from either downloading them or being able to stream them or get them through the service without having to go to a GameStop. And this could be the first steps down the line, you know, not immediate, but obviously further down the line towards GameStop being kind of obsolete. It seems like a lot of people are really looking at this as like one of the first roots, or kind of like, you know, foundational things for that type of change, you know, towards that digital only era, that digital only movement. And I could totally see that. I mean, obviously this has to be successful for a lot of Xbox One owners. That's a big deal. I think that you could tie this in with a lot of other deals involving Xbox Live. And I think also if this works out for Microsoft, you're going to see other places that could possibly jump in on this. Like, I mean, even though Sony doesn't really have to do so now because they have PlayStation Now, which is kind of similar when you think about it in some ways, they could also adopt whatever works with Microsoft into their own thing. And then now you have both major consoles, Xbox and PlayStation, having something similar that offers that same type of service. And then eventually Nintendo will probably follow suit later on, because they're usually late to the party on these types of stuff. But I could totally see that happening years from now, maybe like after a couple of years or something. Again, provided it's successful like that. But again, we'll know as we go along.
Absolutely. Agreed. Yes. And how about you, Gary? What are your thoughts on this new development regarding Microsoft?
Yeah. I mean, initially when the news broke, you remember our conversation, Rich. You said it in the chat and everything, and I joked about it. I was like, "What games?" Because yeah. But that was just a joke. Like, on a serious note, this is both very smart and very desperate of Microsoft. So let me start with desperate. It's desperate because they know they can't easily compete with the PlayStation and now the Nintendo Switch. Those are kind of the two juggernauts in the gaming industry at the moment. And as the MPDs have shown over the past few months, like, Microsoft are finding it really hard to compete with that, especially with the fact that they don't have a lot of top tier exclusives that people are eager to buy at the moment. Obviously they actually sold the most, well, I don't think they outsold the Switch, but they outsold PlayStation in December, and thanks to PUBG and everything. And that's a very, very small victory for them. In the long term, it's going to be harder for them to compete. So it's desperate because they want to now, their tactic is to undercut the competition. And they're undercutting them by offering full games at such a low price. Obviously it's a monthly basis, but I'm not sure how the logistics of Game Pass works, like whether you can just quit 1 month and then subscribe the next and then quit again. I'm not sure if that's how it works, but go ahead, Rich.
Oh, no, Yeah, I was going to say you can do that, and they did announce, when they announced that news, they're going to have a 6-month, $60 card that they're also going to be releasing. So if somebody wants to sign up for 6 months one time, they can do that, and then if they want to re-up, they can always do that also.
Okay, that's very smart of them. But yeah, they are undercutting the market by doing that. And I'm sure Sony and probably, well, Microsoft, Nintendo kind of do their own thing anyway. So they might not be, as, they might not care as much. But Sony are probably real, upset about this decision because it really undervalues their services, the services that they have. So yeah, that's why it's desperate, but it's also smart because you have all these Xboxes that people own, and if you have an Xbox, like, how can you not buy Game Pass at this point? Like, it's an offer you can't refuse. Like, you really can't. Like, if all these games are coming out, would you rather pay $60 for one game, or would you rather pay $10 and get loads of games, like hundreds of games? Like, it's a no-brainer. So that's basically guaranteed money that they're going to get from anyone who owns an Xbox. And you mentioned Windows. I didn't even know that this was a Windows thing too. So are you saying that when the new Halo comes out and the new Forza comes out, those games are going to be on PC as well? Like,
yep.
Or is it different games?
Oh yeah, when Windows 10. Windows 10, yeah. I mean, they haven't really announced that yet, but yeah, that's essentially what it, because they haven't announced this, whatever the next Halo and Gears is. But yeah, that's definitely, I think, going to be a standard. They're going to continue.
Because remember they said like pretty much all first party games are going to be play anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're going to be both.
Yeah, you're right.
That's So and obviously if the game plays on Xbox, then it'll play on PC. So it's really only going to be first party titles that can take advantage of it on PC. Like it even says on the official Game Pass page, like Game Pass is not available on PC, and it's technically not. So it's only these first party games, but that's still, in my opinion, even worth it for PC gamers. Like, even though you're not getting like the hundreds of games, you're still getting like Halo and Forza and everything for $10 a month, which is still awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, if that's the case, that's something even I'm going to think about, like...
Use the Windows Store.
Say that again?
You have to use the Windows Store.
Oh, yeah, that's the only downside. That's the biggest downside. But it's still something I'm going to think about because I have friends who have Xbox. We still need to play Gears of War, by the way. But yeah, I have friends who have Xbox, and I want to play games with them too. So it's definitely something that I'm going to consider as a Windows user. So it's, you know, it's both very smart and very desperate. The question is where they take this, because this service is going to grow now. Like, without a doubt, it's going to grow. And I've seen a lot of articles over the week kind of bill this as the gaming answer to Netflix. And it definitely has that potential now. But what's actually going to happen when it does grow? Because are they going to then use the service for the good of the industry? And the way they can do that is by also inviting indie developers to have their games on Game Pass, because that will give them more exposure, just like, you know, PlayStation Plus and stuff, like how that's kind of made a lot of games popular, like Rocket League and, you know, what's that game?
Resogun?
Yeah, that, and something more recent, the PUBG clone. Can't remember the name.
Fortnite?
Fortnite, yeah. Like stuff like that. Like, you know, it can, once this grows, it's going to be a platform that can give exposure to a lot of different games that, you know, so Microsoft can then, they'll then have the power to broker deals with different studios. Like, you launch your game with us and, you know, you're going to get X amount of people exposed to your game and stuff like that. So there's a lot of ways they can take this in the future. But like Max said before, I am concerned about, you know, what their intentions are once it does grow, you know, and whether it's going to benefit consumers or if it's going to benefit Microsoft. So that's the biggest concern I have with it.
Well, I'll make a quick statement. I think Max is going to say something else. I'll just make a quick statement. I think the fact that Phil Spencer has a bigger role there now, that does give me some hope that, you know, because Phil is a gamer. He understands gamers. So I have to think that he has a plan for this. Now, obviously, the people above him, I don't know. I mean, he's the head of Xbox. I don't know if he still has the answer to anyone else. But obviously, you know, we'll see what the long-term plans are. But I do believe that I have at least some faith knowing that Phil has a higher role, and he can control a lot of this stuff. But I do think, as you said, they'll definitely have a lot more indie titles that they will try to get more shine on. And I can also see Microsoft approaching other companies, even though they said that they really don't really like the third-party exclusive thing. I could definitely see them approaching other companies to try and get some of those games on their platform. But we'll have to see about that, because right now the first-party stuff is the focal point. I know they're all focused on Sea of Thieves at the moment, which is smart. Then you got State of Decay 2 coming out, as well as Crackdown 3. So they definitely got to focus on those titles for now. And we'll see what they do as far as the other games they got coming out later this year. But Max, I think you were going to say something, so go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say, yeah, well, like, while I'm still worried, Phil Spencer is like a good, like, kind of presence to have there. Definitely, because he is a gamer and he seems to at least really care about like what the gamers want. Like, he does a good job with that persona, even if it is fake. I don't think it is, but even if it is fake, he does a good job of it. And I also wanted to say, Gary, that was a great point with the indie games, because they already have, even right now, they have some indie games on there that are like those $5 ones you see at the store, like on the store, that you would like never see unless you're just looking just randomly, just like in obscure places. They even have some of those on there right now. So that's definitely something they can expand upon, because I was just looking through I've never actually looked through the whole list of games. So I was doing that the other day. There are so many on there that like I've never heard of, and they just look like when Xbox Live Arcade launched back like on the 360. They look like a lot of those types of games, and it's cool that even like those types of games can get exposure through Game Pass as well. They still, my one thing is I don't know if they limit it to 100 games, because they do switch games in and out. Most of the time they all stay the same, but like I think it was like Metal Gear Solid 5 just got taken off, or will be taken off like the 31st. So like that's kind of big, but like I think the core ones stay. But I don't know if they're ever going to expand past 100, or if they're just going to stick at 100, or around there, because that could also be limiting, because if they have so many like bigger games and like so many developers jumping on, that could be bad for like smaller indie developers. But of course that wouldn't happen for a while, and we'd still have to see. But it's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to see how everything pans out, but so far, like I said, the Game Pass, this will make Game Pass a lot more appealing. I did speak to a few friends that I know they have sort of given up on Xbox, but then when they heard this, they were like, "Oh, well, maybe I will consider jumping back in." So yeah, I definitely think that the news, making the announcement when they did, definitely got a lot of people talking. And we'll see what the long-term plans are for this particular service. But I do give props to Microsoft for making this announcement, and we'll see what happens. So any final thoughts to mention before we wrap up today's show?
Do you think Sony will respond by altering PlayStation Now in any way?
They don't have to. They don't really need to. Honestly, they're good for the moment.
Like I've said this before. Oh, good.
Oh no, go ahead. Continue.
I've said this before, and I really think now is a good time. But I think they do need to offer like newer games on PlayStation Now if they want it, and probably change the price as well, or combine it with PlayStation Plus, because now, like, I feel like this undervalues PlayStation Now a lot. Like, because why would you pay PlayStation Now for all those old games and everything like that when you have this service over here which is only $10 and you can play new exclusive games and hundreds of other games as well. Like, so I think PlayStation should definitely think about altering how they deliver PlayStation Now.
Well, I see exactly what you're saying, that they should think about it, but I think I don't really think that Sony is focusing on PlayStation Now quite as much. They'll probably implement a few changes down the road, but again, I for the most part I have to agree with JJ in the sense that Sony has so many positive things going on now. They don't really have to focus on that. God of War, I know a lot of people looking forward to their lineup this year. God of War, Days Gone, Detroit, and then of course the future games like Death Stranding and Last of Us Part 2. So I think they're going to continue to just focus on delivering the titles, the first party lineups titles, and some of the third party stuff that people like. They may not focus quite as much on PlayStation Now, but even then, I don't really know how many people are using PlayStation Now right this second. But if they already have people that are still using the service and they are not really stopping to use it, then yeah, I don't think they need to do anything at this moment in time. But I could definitely see some tweaks to it, but I don't think they're going to make it a huge focal point because they already have all these other games that they've told people are coming, some of which we don't have release dates for. So they really do need to focus on, getting those games done, giving us release dates, and really pushing the marketing out for that stuff. But we'll see what can happen. We'll see what happens. Did anyone else want to have any thoughts to Gary's question about PlayStation Now? So it's no longer play. Hey, yeah, no concern for PlayStation Now then. So we'll see what happens though. But yeah, Game Pass, great service, great ideas. Rather, I haven't used the service. I don't know if I'll use it in the future. I mean, I have Xbox Live and I get a lot of other games, so we'll see. We'll see.